right, you feather merchants. This is going to be part two of my life as an iron worker. And the stories I'm going to tell you happened during my first 15 years. And when I worked out of Local 395 in Hammond, Indiana. And anyway, um, a lot of the iron workers, the older iron workers at that time, they had been World War II veterans, veterans of the Korean War, and like I said, we had about 1,200 members, and most of these guys were really good family members, hard workers, and most of them had balls like coconuts. Um, Very interesting group of people, real rugged individuals, no nonsense, uh, no playing games or anything like that. Anyway, it was really an honor to uh, work with people like this. And but I met some real interesting characters along the way, and that's what I'm going to talk about. And none of this is made up. I mean, these are true stories that I'm going to tell. And I'm not going to use any last names or anything. I'll use nicknames that they had out of respect for them and their family because all these guys, they've passed away. This has happened a long time ago. And even our, we had two business agents, tough guys. I remember the one business agent, Nick Columber. He is a tall, big guy. He had been a Marine Raider, hitting island hopping in the Pacific, and he survived. Saw a lot of combat. And his partner, Louis Ross, um, tough iron worker. These guys all they had worked in riveting gangs, and um, they had forms that looked like Popeye. I mean, they were all big forearms, um, rugged, like I said, rugged individuals. But anyway, it's not going to be about these two guys. It's about some of the characters that I met. Anyway, one of them that comes to mind is Herbie. Herbie was he had been a World War II vet, and he fought the Nazis in Germany, and he saw a lot of combat. This guy had been wounded 3 times, and as an iron worker, he fell 3 times and survived. Um, and he even had a shackle um, fall on his head uh, that shattered his helmet as an iron worker, shattered his hard hat, and left an indentation in the top of his head. This guy was tough. It was unbelievable. And, it's funny, when he fell, he said he screamed all 3 times. And he'd ask you, you want to hear what it sounded like? And I said, yeah. And Herbie screamed, blood curdling scream, and I never asked him to do that again. Anyway, he he was a real strong Union man, and he shared some of his combat experience. Besides falling 3 times as an iron worker and surviving, he was shot on 3 different occasions. Uh, they first time they sent him back, and they patched him up and they sent him back to his unit. And he then he got shot a second time, and he ended up being patched up with from field hospital, and he was returned to his unit again. And he said it was the third time that got him. He said that he he got shot the third time, and he was in the hospital, and he thought that they were going to they might send him back to the States because he'd been shot three times, and it was a fairly serious wound, the third one, and the doctor told him, I said, what we're going to do, we're going to patch you up and you're going to return to your unit. And he said that's when he kind of lost his mind. He said that he started thinking that someone was trying to kill him. And he had to actually go to a psych, see a psych. And after several counseling sessions, they deemed him sane, and he was sent back to his unit for a third time. And he said that when people would suggest that maybe he was a little crazy, he would tell them he had papers to prove that he wasn't, because they gave him papers when he had his counseling sessions that said that he was okay. And wonderful guy. I mean, just a funny guy, hard worker. Anyway, there was another one that comes to mind. They called him Terrible Terry. And Terry was not a big guy, but he was strong, really strong. And I saw him do this. He could do one-handed chin-ups, and he could do them really easy with either hand. And he didn't do the kind where you hang on your wrist. No, he did chin-ups like that, and he'd make fun of my partner and I, because we were both pretty good size at the time and working out, and we couldn't do one-handed pull-ups. But anyway, Terrible Terry, I remember he was it was on a weekend, and this is his story. He told us this, and he was him and his partner. They were drinking and working on a car, and Terry cut his hand. He cut it really deep, and he was wanted to go to the hospital and get it sewed up. And his partner said, "Don't go to the hospital." He says, "I can fix it. I can sew it up." So Terry said, "Okay." So they washed out his hand, and his partner took a needle and thread and sewed his hand up with a needle and thread. And they didn't have a Band-Aid, but his partner had a roll of electrical tape. So he wrapped his hand with electrical tape. And the next morning, that's how he showed up to work, with his hand taped up with electrical tape. You can't make stories like this up. It's unbelievable. And then another interesting character I ran into, they call him Ducky. And Ducky, I never thought he was in his right mind, but he was harmless. I mean, he was a nice guy. And anyway, Ducky always wore a welding hood on his helmet. I don't think I ever remember seeing him weld, but he always wore a welding helmet. And one thing he told me, and others as well, he said he's never slept a day in his life. He never slept a day in his life. That's what he said. So I asked him, I said, well, since you don't sleep, I said, what do you do? And he said, well, I've had several professions over the years, and uh, I was a dentist at one time, and I'm looking at his hands, and he's got hands that look like a gorilla's hands. I mean, big fat fingers that are all gnarly and calloused. And then he told me, he said that he had been a neurosurgeon and doing brain surgery. I remember when he retired that they gave him a standing ovation at the Union Hall, I think because they were glad to see him go. Um, then I remember, like I said, we had a lot of World War II vets. And back then, no one knew about PTSD, and those World War II vets, they saw a lot of combat. Anyway, there was this one guy we had. I can't remember his name. I remember he was a serious guy. He did time. He had been a Marine. He was in Marine Corps, and he had fought on the islands, and he he would go drinking with a skull, and he claimed that he killed this guy, Japanese soldier, cut his head off, and he boiled the skull to get rid of the flesh, and he brought it home with him. And when he'd go drinking, he would take the skull with him. And you know, you got to think this is back in '60s, like today. I mean, they'd call the police. You know, you couldn't do stuff like that. It was a lot different in the '60s. Anyway, he and of course his buddies, they backed us up. They said he would take that skull with him, and he had named him, and he would put that skull, take it out of a paper bag, and he'd put it on the bar, and he would drink with the skull, and when he's done, he'd take it back home. Uh, then what's another one? I wrote some of these names down. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Um, they had a guy, they call him No Talk Harry. And Harry was an interesting character. And the way he got his name, No Talk, is he was working on a tower, and it was in the wintertime. And he's on this tower, and he had a spud wrench in his hand. We had to use spud wrenches. And anyway, he made the mistake of putting the spud wrench in his mouth while he had to do something with his hand. And then when he went to retrieve the spud wrench, it was frozen to his tongue and his lips. He couldn't. So he climbed down the tower and went up to the foreman, and he was trying to tell the foreman what the spud wrench was doing in his mouth, and he couldn't talk. So he ended up getting the name No Talk Harry, because Harry was his first name. And I remember he got married. He signed up on one of these dating sites where he got a foreign bride, and she'd come from Germany. And I want to say that she had come from East Germany, and she brought her mother with her. And I remember Harry saying she didn't really speak much English. And one thing that bothered him is when she would make mashed potatoes, they always had lumps in them. And he told her, he says, I don't want lumps in my potatoes. Well, this got to be a problem because evidently she liked having mashed potatoes with lumps in them. And so he complained enough that one day he came home from work, and She was gone. She took her mom and returned to Germany. Um, anyway, let me look at the list here and uh, let's see. Terrible Terry Herbie. Oh, this is all right. The last one. This is interesting. Um, this guy's name was Wally, and we ended up calling him Spaceman Wally. Wally lived in a place called Whiting, Indiana. And Whiting was where they had all the oil refineries. And I remember in the 50s, I think mid 50s, it must have been around 55, something like that, 56. One of the oil refineries blew up. And I was a kid, and we had moved from Chicago to Hammond, Indiana. And we heard the explosion, and it was Whiting was quite a ways away, and I saw black smoke coming out of Whiting for for days. I mean, that place was on fire. Anyway, getting back to Wally, um, I he lived in a small home in Whiting. Like a lot of the homes were small homes, small yards, small front yard, small backyard, and of course they all had alleys, and all the homes were real close together. Now he claimed he was in the kitchen, and it was in the evening, and he he saw a bright light, and he said a UFO landed in his backyard. Um, he told us, he said he opened the door and went out in the backyard, and he actually went on board this UFO and had some kind of communication with the aliens. I don't recall if they what they did with them or what they said to him. He was real serious about it, and you know, when you talk to him, he talked just like he was in his right mind. But I don't think he was in his right mind, and he stuck to the story. And I remember he welded a lot, and I remember him. We were on a job, and the machine, the power was fluctuating, and he had to keep readjusting his welding machine. And he told us, he said, I was working with Freddie Maurer, and he told Freddie and I, he said, the aliens, they're doing this. He said they do this frequently. They'll zap power from our power grids, and they use it somehow. And he said that's what was going on. Anyway, you know, it's I have some fond memories, and of course some memories that were I don't like to think about. But you know what's something that's interesting is after I worked my 25 years as an ironworker, and I ended up in Pelican Bay, I started having nightmares that I was back on the job. And in the nightmares, I always fell. And I would, of course, it would make me wake up, and I'd be I'd be sweating. And these were like really bad nightmares. And but then I would wake up and I'd realize that I'm not an iron worker anymore. I'm working in Pelican Bay State Prison, and I enjoyed it. I liked working there, and they were reoccurring. And I bet, this must have lasted a good 6 months, almost nightly. I would have these dreams. They were driving me nuts. And then all of a sudden they stopped. But every once in a while I'll have one of these dreams, even today. And often wondered, is that PTSD? I have no idea. It never really bothered me. I never, you know, whoops, just a minute. Oh, okay, I kind of lost you guys here for a minute. Anyway, that's pretty much my story, and I want to thank you guys for stopping by, and I'll see you on the next video. All right.